All right, guys, so now you completed your entire playlist and you're coming to the very last part of it. So now you get to choose what project you want to do to complete chemical and physical changes before your quiz. So here are your choices. You have a one pager, a video experiment, a coloring book, a comic strip, or a game. Okay, so here are your directions for each one. You only have to choose one. If you decide to do the one pager, you create a one pager that illustrates how evidence of chemical reactions indicates that new substance with different properties are formed. Be sure to give a brief explanation of your drawing. So this is going to be on a sheet of copy paper, okay? And you're going to choose one example of a chemical change. You draw whatever example you chose on a sheet of copy paper. You identify and label the original substance, identify and label the new substance, and identify evidence that the chemical change actually took place. Explain your drawing and then in a brief explanation, and then make sure you include some kind of color. If you choose the video experiment, you should be designing an experiment using common substances found in your home that will investigate and show evidence of how chemical reactions indicate new substances are formed. You're going to record yourself doing this, and you're going to use class time to create the experiment. So during class time, you'll design your experiment, you'll create an experiment, you'll create the experiment at home. You're going to identify your original source, identify your new substance, and then you're going to show evidence that a chemical change took place in your video. You should be talking about it like this is how I know a new substance took place, and then you should be recording your entire experiment. Make sure you give a brief explanation of what happened. Next option is a coloring book. So you'll design 5 pages coloring book that shows chemical changes that are creating new substances and new and different substances, okay? So first, identify 5 different examples of a chemical change that you want to use. Second, draw each example on a single page. You should have 5 pages total. Maybe you want to add a cover page, so 6. Identify your original substance, identify your new substance, show evidence that a chemical change has actually taken place. Be creative, and also you should be using copy paper or construction paper. Please do not use notebook paper or printed paper. So you may have found something online and you just printed it off and you think you're about to turn that in. That's a no. All right, comic strip. The next option is that. So you'll design a comic strip. Remember, this should be creative and funny. You're describing and giving an example of the difference between chemical and physical changes. So you draw a scene identifying the difference between a chemical and a physical change. Identify an example of a chemical change. Show evidence that the chemical change has taken place. Identify an example of a physical change and show evidence that the physical change has taken place. Make sure you're creative. Use a sheet of paper. Make sure it's on a sheet of copy paper, not on notebook paper, and make sure you use color, okay? Pro tip, if you're not sure what a comic strip looks like, Google one. The next and the last choice that you can choose from is a game. So you'll create a sorting game to help younger students determine the difference in chemical changes and physical changes. So first, you should identify at least 5 examples of a chemical change. Show evidence that a chemical change has actually taken place on the game card, okay? The next one is evidence of a physical change has taken place. Place on a copy of construction paper, and in the form of the game pieces, make sure you're creative and you have color, okay? So it's kind of like how you did in your notes, how I gave you different scenarios and you told me if it was a physical change or a chemical change. So what I would probably do if I was you, I would create a maybe a title that says physical change and a title that says chemical change, and then you give me some examples on one card. Give me another example on another card that says like explaining why it's that, and then you can have your people match them underneath whatever title it is. So I'll give you an example. You'll say cutting paper, right? So it'll actually be cutting paper, and then you'll show why that is a physical change. So cutting paper is a physical. So one card will be cutting paper, like it'll literally say cutting paper. The second card will say cutting little pieces of paper, cutting one sheet of paper into smaller pieces, and then you'll be able to So hopefully whoever is playing this game will be able to put those together and putting under physical change, because it shows that it is a physical change. It started off with one substance and it stayed with the same. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Good luck.